do amazing things with the choice each new day brings. And with every step you take, bless the progress that you make. The reason you live is found in every gift you give. Love your life, love your dreams. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Oh, the places you will go and the people you will know. Don't worry when or where or how. You don't have to know right now. You're on the right track. No need to look ahead or back. Just enjoy what this day brings. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. You don't have to work it out. Just stay in the here and now. Let your mind rest for a little while. Sometimes deepest answers come when you're out there having fun. So close your eyes and take a breath and smile. You don't have to work it out. Just stay in the here and now. Let your mind rest for a little while. Sometimes deepest answers come when you're out there having fun. So close your eyes and take a breath and smile. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. I'm so close to you, baby, but I'm so far away. There's a silence between us, and there's so much to say. You're my strength, you're my weakness, you're my faith, you're my doubt. We got to meet in the middle to work this thing out. More love, I can hear our hearts crying. More love,
slaving away till there's no time for talking about troubles in mind, and the doors are all closed between your heart and mine. More love, I can hear our hearts crying. More love, I know that's all we need. More love to flow in between us and take us and hold us and lift us above. If there's ever an answer, they think they'll be happy if they settle the scores. Let's lay down the weapons that hold us apart. Be still for just a minute, try to open our hearts to more love. I can hear our hearts crying. More love, I know that's all we need. More love flow in between us and take us and hold us and lift us above. If there's ever an answer, it's more love. I can hear our hearts crying. More love, I know that's all we need. More love to flow in between us, take us and hold us and lift us above. If there's ever an answer, it's more love, more love, more love, more in my eyes. You sing like the earth, you shine like the sun. I can see the goddess in your eyes. Be strong, be tender, mother, daughter, breaker, mender, reach and grow. Dance and know, spread your wings of fire. Shed your tears like rain. Dance in your desire. Revel in your pain. Your wings will set you free. Your pain will give you birth. Your tears will let you see you are the woman of the earth. I scream for every woman in every earthly nation. With my wings of fire and my garland of flowers, I am the love, I am the power. Be strong, be tender, mother, daughter, breaker, mender, reach and grow. Dance and know, spread your wings of fire. Shed your tears like rain. Dance in your desire. Revel in your pain. Your wings will set you free. you see. You are the woman of the earth. You can conquer me no longer, you cannot hold me down. I can only grow stronger, I stand rooted in the ground. The goddess sings through all, to the sky, to the earth. She dances a circle of death and birth. Be strong, be tender, mother, daughter, breaker, mender, reach and grow. Dance and know, spread your wings of fire. Shed your tears like rain. Dance in your desire. Revel in your pain. Your wings will set you free. Your pain will give you birth. Your tears will let you see. You are the woman of the earth. I am the tree, I am the bird, I am the sea, I am the word, I am the sky, I am the stone, I am the why, I am the unknown. I am the tree, I am the bird, I am the sea, I am the word, I am the sky, I am the stone, I am the why, I am the unknown. I walk, I fly, I laugh, I cry, I breathe, I die. I walk, I fly, I laugh, I cry, I breathe, I die. I walk, I fly, I laugh, I cry, I breathe, I die. I am alive. Do you feel my heart beating in my chest? Can you see a soul behind these eyes? And will you hear my song, though it's silently sung? And believe in my song unsung? Open my mouth, but no sound will come out. The song has been silent so long. My heart, she cries out, child, let the fear go. I don't know if I'm that strong, but if you feel my heart beating in my chest and you see a soul behind these eyes, then can you hear my song, though it's silently sung, and believe in my song unsung? I want you to hear it, to know it is there. The silence is breaking my heart. Or will you believe in that you can't hear till the letting go can start? 'Cause if you feel my heart beating in my chest and you see a soul behind these eyes, then you will hear my song, though it's silently sung. Oh, believe in my song unsung. Don't give up on me, for I have to believe the day will come to be when I'll open my mouth and my soul and my and you'll see a soul behind these eyes, and you will hear my song that's been silent so long. At last I'll sing my song. Do you feel my heart beating in my chest? Can you see a soul behind these eyes? And will you hear my song when it's silently sung? And believe in my song unsung, oh unsung, unsung, oh unsung. I am walking on the path of those who came here long ago, before the white man carved the land up with his cities and his roads. I'm looking on these lakes as they were seen by those eyes who were only guided by their spirits and the skies. This land cries, follow me, and my spirit soars free. And deep in the night, in the light of the moon, I hear the echoes of the ancients in the call of the loon. I feel their ghosts slide by on those still glassy waters. Oh, teach me your song, I am this land's long lost daughter. I hear nothing but the sounds of the earth in the air, in the land of the wolf and the moose and the bear. My body may be aching as the full moon climbs the sky, but my soul can only sing and my heart can only fly. The wind sings, fly with me, and my spirit soars free. And deep in the night, in the light of the moon, I hear the echoes of the ancients in the call of the loon. I feel their ghosts glide by on those still glassy waters. Oh, teach me your song, I am this land's long lost daughter. Breaking all my walls, tears of joy shine in my eyes as each heavy burden falls. This place of untouched splendor touches something deep inside, and I feel every soul as my heart is open wide. The earth cries, you are me, and my spirit soars free. And deep in the night, in the light of the moon, I hear the echoes of the ancients in the call of the loon. Feel their ghosts glide by on those still glassy waters. Oh, teach me your song, I am this land's long lost daughter. And deep in the night, in the light of the moon, I hear the echoes of the ancients in the call of the loon. I feel their ghosts glide by on those still glassy waters. Oh, teach me your song, I am this land's long lost daughter. Oh, teach me your song, I am this land's long lost daughter. Well, it looks like it might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you. And I know you might have a heavy load, but I can carry some too. I will lift you up when they push you down. I will raise my voice and stand my ground. Well, it looks like it might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you.
And it looks like it might be a long night, but I ain't going nowhere. And I know it's gonna be a hard fight, but I will stay right here. I will shine a light in the darkest hour. I will face the man in the tallest tower. Well, it looks like it might be a long night, but I ain't going nowhere. I will work, I will fight, I will strive in the name of love. I will speak, I will shout, I will sing it to the skies above. Well, it looks like it might be a perilous climb, but I will follow your lead. And I know it might be a long time until the last one of us is freed, but I will hold on tight, stay by your side. I will be with you for this whole damn ride. Well, it looks like it might be a perilous climb, but I will follow your lead. Well, it looks like it might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you. And I know you might have a heavy load, but I can carry some too. I will lift you up when they push you down. I will raise my voice and stand my ground. Well, it looks like it might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you. That's right,
I'm gonna walk it with you. Ooh, I'm gonna walk it with you. I will walk, I will climb, shine my light the whole night through. Because it looks like it might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you.
In my name you say you kill, in my name you turn with rage, in my name impose your will, in my name these wars you wage. But I say to you, this is all you shall do. In my name you shall love. This is all that is real. You shall love. You shall touch. You shall heal through the darkness of fear. This song is all you'll hear through the labyrinth of anger, through the screaming empty hunger, through the hatred for the shame. You shall love. You shall love in my name. In my name you say you hate, and in my name oppress. Say those not like you are somehow something less. But I say to you, all that share this earth with you, in my name you shall love. This is all that is real. You shall love. You shall touch. You shall heal through the darkness of fear. This song is all you'll hear through the labyrinth of they've done you wrong. All you despise is what you become. But I say to you, this is all that is true. In my name you shall love. This is all that is real. You shall love. You shall touch. You shall heal through the darkness of fear. This song is all you'll hear through the labyrinth of anger, through the screaming empty hunger, through the hatred or the shame. You shall love. You shall love. In my name you shall love. This is all that is real. You shall love. You shall touch. You shall heal through the darkness of fear. This song is all you'll hear through the labyrinth of anger, through the screaming empty hunger, through the hatred for the shame. You shall love. You shall love. You shall.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on MarshStream, your public performance broadcast platform. My name is Brianna Caver, assistant producer for MarshStream, and we are back again tonight for Solo Arts Heal and Can. Although our theater doors are now back open, there are still some folks unable to attend these live performances. So these free streaming performances are brought to you by patrons just like yourself, all who donate to our tip jar. The link is posted in the chat and is also available on our website at themarsh.org. Remember, all donations are tax deductible and 100% matched. We need you now more than ever so we can continue to bring these free streaming performances to our community. If you are watching us live on YouTube, welcome and thank you for joining us. Please make sure you subscribe to be notified when we go live and watch the hours of free performances, interviews, and events we have archived all right there on our channel. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the Marsh Berkeley is Bioneers Conference from 12:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Later on Saturday is Adam Strauss's Something is Wrong with Adam Strauss at 7:30 p.m. in the SF studio. So again, please donate to our tip jar. Thank you for joining us. And now let's welcome your host, Rick Davis.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. And if you were with us last month, I had the distinct pleasure of presenting a very good friend. And this month, I'm going to present somebody who I suspect will become a very good friend after we've finished our session tonight. She is a renowned and acclaimed storyteller. She's told stories from the Civil War to raucous tales and romance novels. She's entertained NASA and the National Association of Miniatures, which I suspect was a very small audience. And we welcome Beth Horner. Beth, hello. Come on in. Hello. How big was that? How big was that audience in the National Association of Miniatures?
Miniature enthusiasts. These were people who do miniatures. You know, they create entire towns and they're right there. And they were a blast. And I specifically remember that each of them gave me their business card, which were tiny.
Well, I actually do know because there is a museum, there's a miniatures museum in Tucson, fairly close to a property I own. So I am aware. I think it's called the Time Machine Miniatures or something. I haven't been to visit, but maybe you'll inspire me to go and visit with them. Anyway, welcome. We're delighted to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
And one of the reasons I'm so delighted to talk to Beth is because Beth is, I hate to say it, but a career caregiver, unfortunately. And Ancan has a very soft spot for caregivers because we really acknowledge that caregivers need a tremendous amount of support. And so we are so welcome to have you. The other reason is because your life partner for whom you care lives with Parkinson's disease. And that is another issue that for many years we've been trying to do more for. And we may soon do that. We'll come to that later. But I would first like to ask you about your storytelling. So when did you first realize you were a storyteller?
I very much grew up with storytelling. I grew up lived for many years on a very isolated rural farm in central Missouri. And we did not have a television or anything like that. And my grandmother used to come from St. Louis, and she had books with her from the public library, fairy tales. And you know, she would memorize them and she would tell them to us because we were always working, you know. So she would tell us stories. And then my father is a natural. He's a natural storyteller. So I tried to find a profession in which I could also tell stories, and I became a librarian. And then 40 years ago, I launched into telling stories full time. I found out there were people who made their living telling stories. And so this celebrates my 40th year. And one moment I'm telling stories in a prison. The next moment I'm telling stories to 2-year-old. The next moment I'm working with astrobiologists at NASA. Or Nashville songwriters. It is just the most rewarding career. I am self-employed as an artist, and we all know that can be a challenge.
Yeah, but I mean, so you've been telling stories for 40 years. That's a long time.
That's right.
What was the first story you ever told?
Oh my goodness. I'm not quite sure. I think it was in my storytelling class in graduate school. Now, my father told us various stories of family members. He didn't tell us folk and fairy tales as my grandmother did. But Ellen Green, my teacher in graduate school, my storytelling class, I believe I told The Teeny Tiny Woman, or it might have been White Bear Whittington, which is an Ozark and Appalachian version of Beauty and the Beast. That was for class. Right.
So, as a storyteller, I've always wondered, is there a script that you remember and you repeat that script every time, or is it just a structure in your mind and you work around it according to the audience? Or tell us a little bit about the technical aspect of storytelling.
Well, of course, everyone approaches storytelling in the same way they approach dance or any other art form, in their own way. Myself, for years and years and years, I never wrote a story down. Everything was in my head. I'd have like a few post-it notes, or I might have an outline scribbled on a yellow pad or something. But in more recent years, I have not written the stories, but I've been a little better at writing some things down or transcribing them, because my stories are getting more and more complicated. I mean, I have one that is 2 hours long. And so it is helpful to have something written down. But no, I don't memorize the stories unless it's a literary tale, like an Edgar Allan Poe, for example. Or if there are certain passages that I want just so, I might write those down. But generally, I look at the whites of their eyes. I look at the people who are listening, which is always a challenge on virtual performances, and see what they might relate to as I start the story, and I work with that.
What about in live performances? I mean, do you adjust to the reception of the audience, or?
Oh, definitely. Especially if I'm working with children, you know, if they find something particularly enjoyable or funny or whatever, then I play that up. But it is very important to know a little bit about one's audience. I always, when I get picked up at an airport to go to a performance, whether it's a theater festival, I always ask, you know, what are the politics here? Is there anything significant that's happened lately? So that I know what people are bringing, you know, and also what their background is. What did they bring to this experience?
Yeah, you know, I like to put that in my terms, which is you got to know your customer.
That's it.
Right.
You really do. Now, you don't always have the opportunity to know them before you start, but you will quickly find out, depending on their reactions.
So you've probably written in your time thousands of stories, because every experience can become a story, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure they're all like your children. So dare I ask, do you have a favorite?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I do love the story that I tell that's a takeoff on romance novels, called Encounter with the Romance Novel. It's very bawdy. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of a laugh a minute kind of a story. And people relate to it because none of us live up to those stereotypes. But I would say in recent years, many of my stories have been about people that I've been taking care of. Ron's parents, that's my sweetheart, Ron, my own parents. I have a story about beavers that has to do with my father turning over his 2 farms to me when he got to the point when he didn't want to, when at age 98, he decided to retire from farming. So that experience of both taking care of him and taking care of his farms, because there's a lot to caregiving that is not just, you know, physical care. There's a lot that goes on.
We know.
A lot of my stories, I would say, in the past few years have to do with some aspect of my caregiving. Yeah.
So we're going to hear a story tonight that has something to do with your caregiving. And I'd like you to set it up and launch into the story.
Okay, I will do that. And this, and if you'll just hold on a moment, because my friend Ron is asking me a question, Ron. Yes, thank you. He's reminding me to record. So I said, I think you are. Okay, this story actually takes place in 2022, and it takes place primarily in Bowling Green, Kentucky. But we had my own father, who died at the age of 101, had just died. And I was dealing, as I said, with his farms, and had done very very extensive caregiving with him in his last years in near Columbia, Missouri. And I was a little bit worn out. And I went to Tennessee as the storyteller in residence at the International Storytelling Center, which is a week of 6-hour-long performances, each of which has to be unique and distinct from the last one. And then I stayed there, and my sweetie Ron was with me. We stayed there to attend the National Storytelling Festival. And this is something that happened on the way back from the National Storytelling Festival to our home in Chicago. And here is the story. Shall we begin, Rick? Let's do. Okay, here we go. Evidently, he had been standing at the urinal in the men's bathroom of the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, staring at a leaflet on the wall in front of him. I was out in the hallway of the National Corvette Museum waiting for him. And when my sweetheart, Ron, my sweetheart of 29 years at that point, emerged, he held in his hand gingerly this flyer and handed it to me. I dug out my glasses and I read, "Drive a Corvette on the National Corvette Motorsports Raceway, a high-speed thrill." And I looked at Ron and I said, is this something you would like to do? And a slight smile appeared on his face. Now, I had become very accustomed to reading and interpreting those slight smiles. And this had become a question that I was asking a lot in the last 6 years. Is this something that you would like to do? Because 6 years prior to this trip to the National Corvette Museum, Ron had been diagnosed, as Rick said, with Parkinson's disease. And one of the things that happens or can happen with Parkinson's disease is that there can be a paralytic effect on the face. And so as the face freezes up a little bit, it becomes a little more difficult to read a facial expression. So when I saw a slight smile appear, I knew to pay attention to it. Now, I had just asked this question, is this something you would like to do, a few days earlier when we left Tennessee and the National Storytelling Festival to head back to Chicago. Because as we launched out, I heard Ron say, "Are we going anywhere near Bowling Green, Kentucky?" And I had said, not really, but is that someplace you would like to go? Well, he said the National Corvette Museum is in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And you know, I'm intrigued by Corvettes. So I thought, all right, we'll make it happen. And we did. We went out of the way and we ended up in Bowling Green, Kentucky at the National Corvette Museum, where he emerged with the leaflet, "Drive a Corvette on the Raceway, a high-speed thrill." Now, when Ron had first been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease 6 years before this happened, I had gone into overdrive. I was going to find the best specialists, the best therapies, the best exercise program. And I researched and researched and researched and researched. And before you knew it, Ron and I were involved in tons of research and doctor after doctor after doctor, and swallow therapy, loud crowd speech therapy, rock steady boxing for Parkinson's, Nia dance for Parkinson's, all sorts of therapies, all sorts of exercise classes, because the fact is that Parkinson's disease is, like many diseases, a degenerative disease. And so we were in a race against time. So when Ron showed me that leaflet with a slight smile, I said, okay, let's try to make it happen. It was time to go home. We had spent the day at the National Corvette Museum. It was time to go home or back to our hotel room. And there, Ron rested on the bed while I got out my computer and my glasses and this leaflet, now in a plastic bag. And I began looking up the website, the National Corvette Motorsports Raceway. Ah, there it was. the Corvette experience. It said, if you love cars, check, and you love the experience of high-speed thrills, check, saw, the Corvette experience is for you. Oh, I thought, how do you sign up for this thing? How do you do this? When do you do it? I wonder if it costs anything. And then it said, drive the newest Corvettes available. And I know, right away. Those would be the Corvette C8s. But did I really need to know this? No, but I had spent the day at the National Corvette Museum, and I knew the newest Corvette. Not only that, I knew from Ron about a lot of cars, because in our 29 years, I learned that Ron loved three things. One, cameras. He is a retired photographer. Two, bicycles. He has 16 bicycles. And three, cars. Anything fast, anything high speed, anything exotic, anything unique, anything expensive. So I knew what a C8 Corvette was, and I knew that was the newest one. And it wasn't like what you think of a Corvette with the long hood, with the motor in the front. Rather, it was a mid-engine motor. Now, I have to say, this now added to the general conversation that Ron had with me. Anytime, any day, any given time, any given place, Ron would talk about cameras, cars, or bicycles. Now, a lot of it went over my head. I would hear aperture, bokeh focus, flat engine, flat head engine, derailleur, molten, Le Mans, Tour de France, cantilever, torque. That's basically what I got out of it. But I managed to piece together a few things. Now I said, no, wait a minute, Ron, how are we going to do this? Ron was still resting on the bed, but I said, oh, look, here's a schedule. I pressed the schedule button. I said, well, look, you can, let's see, there's no spots left, Ron. I said, except for 2 days from now. So I guess we can do that. I wonder if it costs anything. Ron said, well, yeah, that's okay. 2 days from now, we'll just stay an extra couple of nights. I said, okay. And then I looked, and I said, oh, look. Well, it's $400. Ron sat up from the bed and said, wait a minute, $400. We're not paying $400. I said, oh, gosh. I accidentally already booked it. So I guess we're doing it. So then we decided, what are you going to do? We had an extra day in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So what are you going to do? Because it wasn't until the day after the next. Well, I'll tell you what you do. You book for the hotel for another couple of nights, and then you go back to the National Corvette Museum. That's what Ron wanted to do. That's what we did. Now, I have to tell you, I booked us an extensive tour this time of the museum, not just a few things to see like we had the day before. And wow, we started that tour, and those people knew storytelling. I saw exhibit after exhibit, and I learned that the Corvette was the first sports car made by a major manufacturer here in the United States, inspired by the guys coming back from Europe who had fought during World War II and wanted something sporty instead of our old bland cars. And that the Corvette had been named after a naval ship, a small, sleek ship that could run circles around and sink the larger ships. And we went from exhibit to exhibit, and I thought, I love their storytelling. And there I learned about the savior of the Corvette, Zora Arcos Duntov. Ron had to rest a little bit, but I learned a little bit more about Zora Arcos Duntov. And then Ron came back. I said, look, this guy grew up Jewish in Russia, and he was bullied constantly, so he grew up tough, I said. This guy is tough, Ron. And then he emigrated to Paris, and he fell in love with a famous ballet dancer named Elfie. And they had something in common, sports cars, a love of sports cars. And in fact, when the Nazis arrived in France, Zora Arcos Duntov went underground, but he got word to Elfie just as the Nazis were marching into Paris and said, "Get out of Paris." And she threw a few things into her sports car and zoomed out just ahead of the Nazis. And then I learned that when they had gotten to the United States after the war, he had become an engineer at the Corvette and turned it from a clunkish car not selling well into a sleek sports car selling well. And Elfie had become a spokesperson. They were the saviors of the Corvette. And there in the museum, at the end of the exhibit about them, you could look and see their ashes right there. And then there was another story about a guy who just lusted after a Corvette. He was a baker. He was building a new bakery building, in fact, and he saved his money and he finally had enough money to buy a Corvette, took his wife on the maiden drive in his favorite car. And when she got out at the end, she said, "This car is too uncomfortable." That was before they hired women designers. And she said, "I will never ride in this car again." And so, realizing that his wife didn't share his love for this Corvette, which I was trying to share with Ron, didn't share his love with this Corvette, he built a room in the basement of his bakery, his new bakery, and he walled up the Corvette and placed a little pane of glass where each day he could walk down to the basement and gaze in at his Corvette. There was story after story about the Corvette. And at the end of the day, it was time to leave because we needed to get rest for our excitement the next day. But as we were exiting the museum, I said, "Hey, Ron, look, Ron, you can do a simulated ride on the racetrack or simulated drive. Let's do that." So we signed up. It was only about $35. We'd already paid for the museum. So we signed up, and the girl in front of us, an 8-year-old girl, was having a great time. She was on the high speed. There was a big screen in front of her, and she sat on her father's lap in the half of a model of the Corvette, and she took every curve, and she raced around until the end, and we all cheered. Then it was Ron's turn. Now, I thought this doing the simulated drive was a good idea, because after a few years after Ron was diagnosed with Parkinson's, he had stopped driving. He said he felt uncomfortable driving because his tremors had grown stronger, mainly in his right hand and his right foot, and he was uncomfortable driving. So basically, in the past 3 years, he hadn't driven a car. And I thought that perhaps, given that he was going to drive this $100,000 car on a racetrack the next day, maybe a simulated drive was a good idea. So Ron lowered himself down into the model Corvette with the screen in front of him. It started up and he zoomed out, immediately crashed into the wall. The woman said, that's okay, we can start over. Crash, 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 it flashed. So he started again, boom, he crashed again. Then he zoomed around the corner and he crashed again. Crash after crash after crash. Ron became very, very quiet. Now, I will say, I also did the simulated drive and I did not crash once. However, I never went over 25 miles an hour. Well, it was a very quiet drive back to the hotel. We went back to take the medication we would need before eating dinner. And Ron, so quiet. And the quieter Ron became, the chattier I became. Oh, Ron, really, it's not going to be anything, really. That simulation it's not real. It's not real. I mean, that steering wheel is so loose. I mean, it was no wonder you were crashing, but we're going to be on a real road tomorrow. You're going to be on a real road and you're going to have the feel of the road underneath you with the real steering wheel. So it's going to be completely different. And remain quiet. Now, Ron also has secondary post-traumatic stress disorder, and with the anxiety that comes with Parkinson's and post-traumatic stress disorder, he became very quiet. And when we went to dinner that night, I suggested that he drive the car to dinner, but he said he didn't feel comfortable driving. And after dinner, came home, went to bed. And the next morning, this quiet continued. And I noticed that his tremors had increased because stress can increase tremors. And so I became even chattier. Hey, Ron, I made us oatmeal right here in the hotel. Why don't we have a good breakfast? And I dressed in the Corvette colors, red, white, and black. I said, because I'm going to be cheering you on, Ron. Well, you and your Corvette, me and my Corvette colors. And then I set about figuring out the schedule for that day's medications and foods, because the scheduling of the medications is so essential, as in many illnesses. So you have to take the medication, which is a dopamine, basically, 1 hour before you eat, and not less than 2 hours after you eat. You have to do that several times throughout the day. So I figured out the whole schedule, and I packed everything we're going to need. We're going to need food, we're going to need the medication, we're going to need water, and everything else. I said, okay, Ron, you ready to go? I did get up, we did get in the car, and I did insist that he drive over to the racetrack. He did fine driving, even though he hadn't driven in a long time. As long as I gave him the rights and the lefts, he did fine. His tremors were still there, but that seemed to calm him down a little bit. And we arrived early enough, because I knew we were going to both need a bathroom several times before this ride. We arrived early enough that when we pulled in the security gate and we heard zoom, 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 I said, hey, how about we go over to the racetrack and take a look at it? Something's going on. Sure enough, when we climbed up into the spectator stands of the racetrack, we could see down there motorcycles, a motorcycle race, zoom, 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 going around. These guys taking curves and dips so fast that they had to lean their motorcycles all the way almost to the pavement. And this made me look down at this raceway. Now, I knew it was going to be an oval, but I had no idea that it was going to have, it was generally an oval, and I knew that each lap was 3.2 miles long, but I don't think I realized how long 3.2 miles is. And it was generally an oval, as I said, but there were many twists and dips and turns and there were rumble strips, and I watched those motorcycles go over them. I looked down and I thought, okay, this is going to be a challenge. Well, it came time for us to go over to the office. We reached the office, and there they welcomed us, and they had some papers for Ron to sign. Ron began then signing away his life and their responsibility to it. He signed away documents on death, dismemberment, destruction, disaster, and I took all the papers and added them to the coats and then the food and the water and everything else I held. And then they said, well, you know, if you crash this car, you have to pay for it. So would you like to get the insurance? It's only $25. And Ron looked at, I don't know if we can. I said, yes, get the insurance. And then we were told that our host's name would be Zach. And we went outside to wait for Zach. And as we waited for Zach, Ron, who brought a couple of cameras with him, kind of fooling with his cameras, wandering over to us came not Zach, but a young man. A young man who said, I am the official raceway photographer, and for only $50, I can take pictures of you while you're on the racetrack. What do you think? And Ron said, no, I don't think we can afford that. What do you think, Beth? I said, are you kidding? We're already into our second mortgage. What with the $400 and the $50 and the $25 and everything else? I say, do it. So the two of them went off to talk secret camera language because Ron had said, is that a bit of the aperture? Do you have a bit of the lens? And they went off to talk their secret twin Esperanto camera language. And Zach appeared. I went and got Ron, the photographer, and Zach said, now, come over and we will pick out your Corvette. And Zach led us, and thank goodness the photographer had loosened Ron up a little bit. Zach led us over to a long, low, sleek row of the most gorgeous cars you have ever seen. Well, he said, you can pick out whichever one you want to drive. Now, I thought he should pick the red one with the black flames because it matched my outfit. It was the Corvette colors. And after all, I was going to be cheering him on from the sidelines. But then there was the black one with the blue flames. But no, Ron gravitated right over to a sleek orange one with black flames. Said Zach, that is brand new. That is a 2022 C8 mid-engine, and no one has driven it yet. But over came the photographer. Snap, snap, snap. Photos of Ron and Zach in front of the car. Snap, snap, snap. Photos of Ron getting into the car. And Zach helped Ron get into the car, stuck his head in, and then said, Beth, Beth. And I wandered over with all the stuff I was carrying. He said, Ron would like for you to ride with him. And I said, me? Well, but no, I didn't pay the $400. I didn't sign up for all the Ds, the death, the destruction, the dismemberment, the disaster. So and he said, that's okay. That's okay. Go dump your stuff. I dumped my stuff, but he let me hold on to the phone. He said, that's the only thing you can take because if you crash, it's too dangerous to have everything rolling around. So I had said to Ron, as Zach lowered me down into this 48-inch high car, I said, Ron, is this something that you would like me to do? And Ron kind of smiled. So I looked up and was immediately met with the cockpit of the Star Trek Enterprise, or maybe the International Space Station, or at least a fighter jet. Looked so confusing in there. Then Zach came around, leaned in, and gave Ron his 30-second orientation. Now he said, this car is capable of going 0 to 60 miles in 2.9 seconds, but it can go almost 190 miles. I will be in front of you, but you will be leading me because if you go faster, I'll go faster. If you slow down, I'll slow down, but at least you will see where things are on the racetrack. So you can just follow me over there and don't ever look down at the dashboard because there's a heads-up display. Everything is projected onto the windshield. So don't look down. You've got to look straight ahead at all times. And then he said, all right, I'll be in that gray C8. You just follow me over. He said, do you have any? I said, we know where the racetrack is because we saw the motorcycle races. And Zach said, yeah, those guys, they're crazy. And I thought, crazy? Who's crazy? Never once had they asked Ron for his driver's license, if he had insurance, if he had anything that might prevent him from driving at high speed on a racetrack, if he'd ever been, convicted of murder, anything. Never once. Gave him a 30-second orientation. And Zach said, so is there any other questions you have? And Ron said, how do you start this vehicle? And I looked over and Zach pointed out the start button. And I saw the tremors on Ron's right hands definitely increased. The anxiety, and even though I tried to time the medication to handle it wasn't working so well. And I saw also his right foot, but he leaned out and he pressed that button. Whoa! This huge motor right behind us started up, capable of going 190 miles an hour. Ron slowly pressed down as best he could on the gas pedal, and he followed Zach. Zach waved at him, followed Zach over to the racetrack, onto the racetrack. And there was the photographer giving Ron the thumbs up. And Zach started at the start line and waved. And so Ron waved out the window, and I swallowed, and Ron pressed down, Zach ahead of him, and they began. And I didn't say a word. I didn't want to distract him, but I did videotape every single thing because I didn't want Ron to miss 1 second of this later. So Ron started, and he began to go a little faster. We went by a row of trees on the straightaway, and then and then there was a dip, and then a bank, and around past the Corvette factory, down another straightaway, past the reviewing stands, back to the start line, finish line, start line. We started the second lap. They had told us we could have 4 laps for $400. And so as we started the second lap, Ron began speaking in numbers. 45 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. The trees started going by faster. 60 miles an hour, over the dip, around, up onto the bank, around the curve. 70 miles an hour, he began, and around past the viewing stands, which were beginning to be a blur, back to the finish line, start line, and around the third one, and then 80 miles an hour, he said. I sat still, but with every curve, we went this way and that way, and I saw Ron's foot tremoring there on that pedal, but he began to go faster, 85 miles an hour, around the curve, 90 miles an hour, another curve, back to the straightaway, and the stands just zipped by there, 100 miles an hour, I heard him say, and I looked over as we came to the start, which should have been the end of our 4th lap, which seemed to, I don't know what Zach was doing, but we started on the 5th lap. Things just whizzed by, 105 miles an hour, back, dip, past the stands. Another lap, it seemed. What lap were we on? I had no idea. I stopped videotaping because I was holding on to that 48-inch, the bucket seat on that 48-inch high car. And then 105 miles an hour, 110 miles an hour, round, and I looked over at Ron, and he was one with that car. His hands were rock steady on that steering wheel. His feet were rock steady with one pressed down on the pedal, not a single tremor, one with that car. And after 110, he began to slow down and slow down. The scenery came into view again. My stomach calmed down. And as Zach led him off the racetrack with the photographer giving him a thumbs up, Zach waving out the window at him, I looked over. Not only was he one with that car, but the smile on his face, that winning smile, I knew was going to last for months. It was going to last through therapies and exercise classes and research and more specialists. It was going to be there for a long, long time. Ron's winning smile. And that's the story of Ron driving a Corvette on a National Corvette Motorsports Raceway.
Wow, love it. And what I'm wondering is, how does Ron remember that experience today?
I should ask him. Ron, how do you remember that experience? Ron is here. He's
Oh,
watching
great.
on his iPad. Would you like to say something? Would you like him to come over?
Yeah, no, I'd love to know
Right.
how
Yeah,
he,
signature cap. Come on over, Ron. Okay, here, you can give him this.
wow.
I was amazed he did it once we got there after the simulation. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's okay. Just come on in. We'll put all this aside.
Yeah, come on in, Ron. I'd love to meet you.
Okay, get in here. There he is.
Hello. Hi. So how do you remember it today? I mean, it took you a while to get up to that 110. And also I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions for you. Tell me first how you remembered it.
Well, I remember, like Beth said, I remember just once I settled down to paying attention, because one doesn't want to like start thinking about things to do list or other things when you have turns. I mean, you in the car, it seems like you're staying still, but everything else comes toward you at a very quick pace. And you've got to be set up for the turn. So the straights are very short. I mean, the whole track itself with all these elevations turns are 3.2, 3 whatever miles. And so I just remember it being very intense, similar to bike riding down a fast mountain road. I mean, there's a sensation of speed, and it's, of course, what you're in depends on the sensation. I mean, of course, a car like that has higher capability than you get the same sensation if you're on something else at a lower speed. And of course, one would never drive, or one should never. One probably should not drive like that and endanger everybody's life on the road. But it's a very structured situation on a racetrack. I mean, we're not racing against other people, so there's not that complication. It's basically you, the road, and staying on the road. And that's simple. I mean, that's challenging in a different way than, of course, our very chaotic and unpredictable everyday driving that we do to our jobs and such.
For his 60th birthday, Ron rode a bicycle across the country.
Well, it was in stages.
In 3 stages.
But this
Bike
is before
camp.
Parkinson's, so.
Right.
Oh,
Well,
wow. I once owned a 65 E-Type, and many years ago, and I took it over 100 miles an hour on a stretch of road that I now drive frequently. And I think I must have been crazy to have done it. So I sort of related some way. But I'm very curious. Why did you stop at 110? You were in a very safe, you were in a safe space on a track. And I was wondering, how high were you going to get? And I'm wondering what.
The only is on this track, given all the twists and turns, there are very few places that one can go. Even, I mean, depending on how fast the car accelerates and decelerates. And I did have to look up what the pros, people who win at Le Mans, etc. I mean, a top professional did 129 in the space. I did a little over 100. And
okay, that makes sense.
Porsche, a GT3, which is probably more than 3 times the price of the Corvette. Corvette's a lot of bang for the buck, but it's way more power than I personally would even want on the road. I think it's easy. The sensation driving a slow car, at legal speeds can be exciting and more responsible than these cars now, which even 490 is low. There are cars now that have 700 or even crazy amounts of power, which is just more bragging rights, I think, that I spent all this money for this thing that has all these statistics. But again, it's not usable, safely.
I think, Ron, you were so focused I mean, the car would go up to about 190 miles an hour.
Well, given
But-
enough space, but I mean, not in the space we had. I mean, I was.
Right, I get it. I get it. So I have another question for you, which I find fascinating because I have a history of working with folks who have lived with PD. Why do you and I understand from Beth that you've participated in Rocksteady and in Rocksteady programs, which I love. I absolutely love, and I'm familiar with the Michael Morris dance classes going back years. Why do you think it is that this experience of whatever it is, this exercise experience allows the tremors to go away for that temporary period? Well, it's incredible to me that it happens, but it does.
Well, I think it's something about the paying attention to the activity. I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm not a medical profession, and I just
Right.
having early stage Parkinson's, which I currently have. But again, for anybody that has the diagnosis of Parkinson's and starting out, I'd recommend, of course, all the resources that we found out. But Rocksteady Boxing, and I never thought I'd be taking a boxing for exercise.
Right.
But there's weightlifting and balance and all the critical things. And I think it would benefit not just people with Parkinson's, but just seniors, people who are just at a certain age where they need to watch their step and their balance.
I've taken quite a few of the classes. They're hard.
Oh yeah.
Good afternoon.
Oh yeah.
It's hard. It's fantastic class, but it's not easy.
No. I know. So let me ask you something. If you are using your camera right now, can you control your tremors during the period that you are shooting?
Yes. I mean, initially, before I got, the meds, the pills help. And of course, if I have to take this very 4.5 hour eat between each dose and with eating and non-eating schedule. So there is a very disciplined, part of the medicine. But
Regime. Yeah.
without the medicine, I would just shake all the time, particularly my right leg, which seems to be the worst. And also, I do in addition to the part of the Rocksteady class, I lift light weights, nothing too heavy, but just
Right.
motion. And I can tell how even if after about 10 repetitions of just very lightweight, the ratchetiness of my arm seems to decrease a little bit. And I've done, of course, a lot of physical therapy too. And they say it's important to break up kind of the stiffness, because one sensor with the Parkinson's, I'm sure you know, is to kind of just curl in on oneself.
Yeah. I mentioned this to Beth, but my closest buddy, who I actually coincidentally happened to interview last month because he's a cancer surgeon, suffers from essential tremors.
Well,
And
I was diagnosed first before they diagnosed.
with essential tremors. And he still, he plays golf 3 or 4 times a week, no problem, but he can't lift a cup to his mouth.
Wow.
He's got to use 2 hands, and even with 2 hands, he's shaking like crazy just to lift a cup to his mouth or to cut food. But you put him on the golf course, he's fine. For years, even with the tremors, he was able to do his surgery.
Wow.
So you take him out of that situation, and he's shaking like crazy. And in his particular situation, it's genetic. His mother had it, his grandfather had it, his son has it. But it's just interesting. I better get back to asking your partner some questions, otherwise they're going to shoot me. I'm going to get fired from the next session. Ron, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming into the screen.
I thank you very much for having me on screen. It was a little unexpected, but I hope this is somewhat helpful for people who have a brand new Parkinson's or similar diagnosis.
Yes, that's what I hope too.
Good support group is helpful. So,
That's
you know,
right.
and your organization, I'm sure, is very helpful too.
Thank you, thank you. So I want to ask you a little bit, I want to dig into a little bit about the caregiving. You've been a caregiver for people with all kinds of different conditions.
Yes.
How do you find the situation with Ron and PD different from previous conditions that you've dealt with?
Well, I think that, and you know, we can talk about the art and how art helps with all of that too. But I think it's just something different, you know, that you have to learn about. And there's one thing that we caregivers talk about, which is it's never enough. I'm trying to get myself back in the frame. It's never enough, no matter how much research you do, no matter how many things you plan, no matter how many programs or how many whatever, you never feel like it's enough. And what happens is the caregiver gets completely worn out. And but with Parkinson's, I think the difference is, well, the degenerative nature of it. And trying, there's almost a panic on my part to try to provide opportunities for Ron and things that he loves before it might get to the point where he might not be able to do them. Would you say so, Hun?
Well,
Yeah.
that's motivating.
And that keeps him motivated, right? He was saying. And so it's my job to keep him motivated. Whereas my father was 101 years old. He had 3 kinds of cancer, including leukemia and so forth. But that was a slightly different situation. Ron is younger. You know, Ron was in his 60s when he was diagnosed.
Right.
That's different. I'm not sure I answered your question. There is a lot out there about Parkinson's, and there's some wonderful organizations. I wouldn't say that the doctors know a lot about the exercise programs and all of the therapies. They know them. And so the support groups are essential. And national organizations.
I mentioned to you, and I wanted to mention in this broadcast that because I had a very close friend who had Parkinson's, and I've been familiar with the challenges for Parkinson's caregivers, and because we have an MS group, and I'm somewhat familiar with the challenges of the MS caregivers. We're about to start a support group for people with motor and neuro conditions. We hope to launch it next month. Of course, our groups are all peer-led. They're not led by social workers. And we have a fantastic leader for this particular group who lives with her fiance who is hemiplegic, so she's very familiar with the motor issues, and we're very committed to trying to provide and to help caregivers for these situations. I'm curious how your performance skills have helped you cope with being a caregiver.
You had told me the other day that might be a question and that you might ask, and I wrote out a few notes, which I won't.
Oh my gosh.
What storytelling has meant to me.
Yes.
So I don't know what our time is. I'm a little confused, although John sent out a wonderful run of show. Oh, I think we're about finished.
We're close to the end, so spend a minute. Spend a minute or so telling me how it's helped you.
I will say this: any art makes us feel less isolated and seen. So if I tell a story about Ron, or even their wonderful folk tales that people can relate to, people feel validated. Oh, I'm not invisible. This is a real thing I'm coping with. And you're telling my story, and I don't feel like I've just disappeared, because isolation and sort of invalidation is very much a part, not only of the people who are have a disability or a health situation, but also for the people caring for them. We caregivers, so I have about 6 stories now just about caregiving. And I think I mentioned that already. So we caregivers laugh because people always say, now caregivers, make sure you take care of yourself first. And it's like, you know, there's no time. And I finally realized that really irritates me, because now I have another person to take care of. But it does affect people's health and psyche and income and so forth. So that's why these support groups are so important. And that's why hearing stories or telling our own stories. So when we tell our own stories, and so I've done workshops with people who are
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, offering peer support is a very cathartic experience. So I have one last question for you, and then we have to wrap up.
Show that picture of
You
Rob.
had the opportunity for one experience like Ron had, driving around a racetrack, but it was an experience. What would it be?
For me,
Yes, for you.
anything to go to the moon. I would give
Go
it
to the moon. Okay.
go to the moon. Yes. I just think that just-
Okay. Well, you know, you're in with the right people at NASA, so don't screw up those connections. Okay. All right. Beth, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. It really has. And it's been a real honor to get to speak to Ron as well. We thank you so much. And I think we have to call it a wrap and hand back to Brianna.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Beth. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Please check out our website for more information on our upcoming shows for the rest of this week. Don't forget to donate to our tip jar. And we hope to see you next time. So have a good evening.
You look fine.
How do I describe my journey with you?
Your mother, who takes care of you, who takes you to the doctor when you're sick. Your mother.
Good morning, New York. Buenos dias. It's me. What's up?
We went out for lunch at a sushi place where she tried sushi for the first time and she liked it.
I see that change can happen. I know things can shift and change for good.
I am dizzily dazzled with stars in my eyes.
Same level as I broke my neck. But he's not getting the same return of function I am.
And I don't want any of your smart aleck sex talk that I usually get when I get.
This is beyond the marsh, because what you're doing is planting beautiful seeds for artists to grow.